Mr. McGee has joined. Hello, Dan. Good to see you.
Hello, everybody.
So we're recording already. The I'm going to run through the agenda right away, just an overview of what we'll be discussing today. So first off, we'll have a presentation by Able City on a Metro Comprehensive Operational Analysis, and the consultants Stantec are here too, representatives from Stantec and from Able City. Then we'll have a brief discussion on the overview of the river and creek, what the plan's proposing along the river and creeks in our region. Then just a few active transportation updates, announcements, and then any future agenda items that any members want to bring up. And I'll mention a few items that we're going to be discussing in the future. And then our open forum, and finally the adjournment. So with that being said, I'm going to let Able City present. They've been working with Stantec as the consultants for the comprehensive operational analysis for Metro, and they're currently undergoing stakeholder engagement efforts. But I'll let them present more about that. They're going to invite you to a few upcoming meetings and things that they're doing. So, do you all have a presentation to share, or just here to speak?
Yes, I have a presentation. I don't know if I need permissions to share.
Be able to share it, and I just realized that I wasn't sharing my screen. I had the agenda posted, and I wasn't sharing it, but you can go ahead and share it.
Okay.
I believe Councilwoman Cigarroa and Councilman Marta Martinez have joined us as well. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, when it's not letting me share.
Maybe we can share the presentation with Mr. Dive so he can.
Yes, I'm sending it right now.
I think you're muted, Juan.
Yeah, Juan, I just sent the presentation to your email. Maybe you can present it from your screen.
Okay, thank you. Let me open that up. Yeah, it's where it usually lets anybody share the content. I don't know what happened. I know WebEx has been kind of weird these days. Let's see. Yeah, I haven't received it yet. Was this joining? Send it to the jmandive at ci.freedom.tx.us. It's coming through. I'm trying to see if I can provide you access to share, but I've never had this issue.
Yeah, it looks like it's a security issue from my end.
Okay.
I sent the presentation as a PDF onto your email one.
Okay. It's just coming in now. Great.
Okay,
Sorry, everyone, about that. Can you see it now?
sorry for the technical difficulties, but okay, so my name is Paola Fernandez. I'm with Able City. I'm a planner and community engagement coordinator on the call, as well as Leslie Abumrad, also with Able City. And from Stantec, we have Sasha Perjic and David Berbick. They're conducting the operational analysis, and Able City has been helping in Metro with their public outreach. Also on the call is Monica. So if you have any questions for any of us, we are here to help. But what we wanted to take advantage of Mr. Mendive's opportunity to speak to the Active Transportation Committee. We wanted to kind of give you a brief summary of what we've been doing so far. So as we said, El Metro is conducting a comprehensive operational analysis of their services. Juan, if you want to go to the next slide. Part of that analysis is, as in the name says, is conducting how El Metro can provide a better service for Laredo. Part of that is in the analysis, Stantec has been conducting analysis on street connectivity and how the impact of if a neighborhood can be served efficiently. As you can see on this graphic here, on the darker brown orange concentration, you can see a grid system, and obviously a grid system can support better and a more efficient transportation network, but this analysis is conducting analysis in all parts of Laredo for high connectivity, low connectivity within Laredo. Next slide, please. Other things that we're looking into is network barriers such as highway interchanges, water bodies, rail crossings act as barriers for pedestrians. So as we know, significant barriers can cause delays to service. Next slide, please. Service frequency is something else that Stantec and the team has been looking into, which allows people to travel where they want, when they want, without having to look at a schedule. So obviously, the higher the frequency, the more options you have. Anytime that you want to go anywhere, you know that there'll be a bus coming in, fewer wait times. But also looking at that increasing service frequency can increase operational cost. Another theme that the teams will be looking at is frequency versus coverage. There is a trade-off between service frequency and service coverage. So looking at both frequency-based service and coverage-based service. Frequency focus on ridership and productivity. Longer waiting period, longer distance between bus stops, and it also might provide longer distances to reach a stop versus coverage, where it focuses more on coverage goals and shorter walking distances to each stop. So in one, you're waiting longer for a bus, and the other one, there's a bus stop more frequently, but you might wait a bit longer for the bus. And again, on frequency, buses stop less frequently, meaning faster travel times and shorter trips overall. And coverage, all routes meet at one central location, but again, providing more bus stops because of the bigger coverage. So these are some of the themes that were being analyzed in the first part. I know that there's also a gap analysis being conducted right now, but within the first round and the first couple months of this process, we also conducted a public outreach effort. We met with stakeholders. We probably met with a few of you on the call, and you've seen these slides before. We had a focus group meeting where we focused the conversation on 4 topics, as you see here on the screen: mobility for all stages, community development, health and wellness, and active transportation, and kind of just driving the conversation of public transit through these 4 topics. Here on the screen, you see some of the themes that were talked about. We've also had a public meeting where we presented a version of what you saw earlier, but also wanted mostly to provide a listening session to community members. If you go to the last slide. And we have a live survey, also wanting to expand the reach and providing an opportunity for feedback and input for all of those that can't make the meetings, or want to say something and just don't feel encouraged to take part into one of those meetings. We've had a survey live for about 2 months, and we still have 1 more month to before we close the survey. But here are some of the most talked about subject in both public and stakeholder meetings: frequency, coverage, accessibility, the Metro app, ease of use, targeting choice riders, targeting students. So we really wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to talk to the Active Transportation Committee. We know that you are advocates of transit and that you have been having these conversations for some time now. So we wanted to invite you to be part of this process if you haven't been part of. I will get with Juan and send him invitations to our to our focus group meetings, public meetings, whichever meeting you can make. And if you can make our meetings, we would really appreciate you filling our survey and sharing the survey with your network. We really want to invite you as champions for transit to help us spread the word and make Laredo a very transit-friendly city. I know that El Metro really wants to, I know that El Metro's focus is to provide transit for Laredo, and I know that you guys are here for that same reason. So I'll share that survey as well. I was going to share in my screen some of the analytics from that survey. But some of the questions that we're asking is not only to El Metro riders, but also non-riders. We want to hear from them why they're not using El Metro, why they are, and how we can improve it. The survey also targets El Lyft users. So we're really wanting to hear from all of Laredo, not only El Metro riders. Leslie, you want to add anything else?
Only to highlight that we're joining efforts with District 6, efforts on micromobility as well. So we will be reaching out to the community, including this topic at hand, in our efforts to widen the conversation and to hear all points of view, especially on the last mile connectivity. And of course, that's where you guys, we think you can definitely get involved, and we want you to get involved. You already have a very good outreach through Facebook. We see your posts; they are very good, and we think that if we align efforts and we can coordinate together, we can help each other, and we can share, like Paola said, our metrics, some of the questions and the results you might find interesting for you to tap into. So it's just an invitation to join us and to participate and be active on this too, because we're looking for the same thing. We have the same goals. And with that, we wanted to ask if you have any questions, and I don't know.
Thank you all. As they mentioned, this is really important. I know they've been doing a lot of stakeholder outreach. we want to invite them here so they can present. I'll also be sending up a follow-up email with the survey. Any links you all want me to include, I can send that out. We do have a pretty lengthy list of committee members, so you'll be reaching a pretty good audience there by sending that out. If you want to add any links on the chat box right now, you can do so as well. I think Councilman Martinez has a question.
Yes, I think in council, we're looking at more of these microburst where you take a small bus or van, a lift type, and do these areas that outlying areas rather than to get a full bus. I think we're starting to have that open concept that might be the way to do. We have the hub where the big buses will ride, and then we have these vans that can go back and forth between neighborhoods and bring them to the hub. So those are the kind of things that we're starting to look at, and so you might want to look at expanding that type of service, and maybe we'll get more ridership if we do stuff like that.
I can elaborate a little bit on the C1, C2, C3 if you like, Councilman. We know we have all that in the north area. We have that coming up. We are extending the C1 more further down to give more service out to the Mines Road area. The C2 will be more at the middle ends of the Mines area. And then now with the new C3 that, by the way, anyone, we've been sending the invitation out because Councilman Cigarroa will be presenting the C3 Riverside, which is going to be a new circulator that we're going to be having here pretty soon, service all of the District 8 area. So with that, the thing about it is that the big buses are kind of like a component that we need for the circulators because that gives it accessibility to make sure that they have a transfer area to the bigger buses that give more routes within the city of Laredo. But what we're doing now is that we're basically the circulators are more of a neighborhood area based where you go into the neighborhood, pick up the people, then you have a hub that which is an outside terminal that connects to diverse regular route buses. So that's basically what we do with the circulators now. We are no longer going to service Route 15, which is the main Riverside, because with the circulator, we're able to go more in depth into the District 8 area, pick up more people, and then they have the ability to transfer into Santa Maria, which is Route 1. So that's basically how we're handling those, but in reference to what they were just saying right now about the micro transit, which is something that a lot of cities are trying to do now. That is basically you call and you make a reservation to get the service, but that'll give you a way to connect. They pick you up. It's type of like an Uber type of thing, but you go, they pick you up and they take you to connecting places. But from there, you would need to connect to any other routes and stuff like that. It's still in the works. We still have to get more logistics on it, but that's what a lot of bigger cities are starting to do, because here in Laredo, what we have more so in the downtown area, our 40-foot buses really don't give you that. We can't go into the areas that are necessary. But then yet, once we start doing this circulator, plus it's gonna, basically bring the people out from the neighborhoods and give them that ride out to be able to connect to the bigger routes and so on and so forth. And another thing that we're probably working on with these circulators, which is really gonna help, and now being able, and during council, we did have Councilman Marte allocate 2.5 acres to the north area to be able to do a big hub over there. So that's kind of gonna help us to pull out a lot of the routes that come all the way downtown to have some sort of connectivity there and not bring all of our routes downtown, and that will lengthen the time from those big routes. So that's basically what we're working on. We're still in transition of a lot of things, but since public meetings are required, it is a big transition that we need to do, and a lot of public meetings that need to be done before we even change anything. So hopefully that information helps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just an FYI, Monica, and I know it's not my district, but it concerns me a lot. On Clark Boulevard, there is a cow path between the Walmarts and the Targets,
Mhm.
all the way into to where the sidewalks start, which is around Webb County Appraisal District and in that area. But there are no sidewalks between the appraisal district and there's some neighborhoods there. And I know that there are some bus stops in the area. So I've been communicating with TxDOT because Clark is regarded a state road. And I've been communicating with them, and now they've seen the need, and so they're putting it on their emergency agenda to put some sidewalks on both sides of Clark Boulevard between that neighborhood where the Webb County Appraisal District is and the Walmart and the Target on the other side. So that we can have better accessibility to the bus stops by providing those sidewalks as the people are coming and going from Walmart and Target.
And the better accessibility, as you know, Walmart and Target do have bus bays that those particular businesses did themselves. So the thing about it is that, you know, we can probably work with a lot of, like, even in the Mines Road area and on the Loop and things like that. You know, I guess the city of Laredo was never, we were never built to be ready for this monstrosity type where people do use public transportation. You know, pre-COVID, you know, we did have 10,000 people riding our buses on a daily. So on the Loop area, we don't have any bus bays. You know, we have and to stop a bus right on the Loop. I mean, there's no way we can do that because by the time the bus accelerates up to 50 miles per hour, it's going to take a good 10 seconds. By the time that happens, we're going to have somebody hidden in the back. So that's, I mean, those are, you know, food for thoughts that you're having conversations with TxDOT. I mean, it would be really great if they start, you know, giving the accessibility to give us those bus bays in order for us to give, you know, better connectivity also in those areas to the people that are going into those new subdivisions, because the Loop in itself is getting a lot of people that are actually building on that area. And those bus bays would really, really help transit, you know, to drop off and pick up in the areas designated for people using public transportation.
I'd like to say that obviously to talk about active transportation, which this committee is, and now that we have a fully adopted active transportation plan, the opportunity here is to really bridge these things together. El Metro has been really doing their part. I mean, El Metro, every single bus now en route has a 3-position bike rack. They've been over the years working with the council districts and providing bus plazas, or bike plazas, I should say, to encourage people to either walk or bike that last mile. And so it really is it's a joint effort, and one that needs to come together. The way that we do that is to provide safer places for people to walk. I know Councilman Martinez just mentioned, like, areas where, you know, you got a bus stop and you can't get to it unless you're walking along Clark Boulevard. Nobody wants to be walking on Clark Boulevard. And so, you know, we really do, I think this is the urgency now is the implementation for people to bridge that last mile. It can't just be El Metro. So I'd like to kind of pose the question: what can we here do to further encourage this to happen? I know that Dr. Martinez, I think he's on the line. I remember him talking a few council meetings ago, a number of times, about resurfacing our streets. That could be a priority. It should be a priority. And one of the least expensive ways of providing sidewalks and bike lanes is when you resurface the street. You know, you can do it relatively inexpensively, and because so much of the El Metro routes are inner city, we have that contiguous grid. We have that connectivity. I guess my question is, how can we accelerate the implementation now that we have the adopted plan? Because the plan is good, and it's only as good as implementation. So I'm kind of throwing that out there.
thank you, Frank. And I was going to make a comment, but you pretty much covered it all. So thank you for that. I think it is important, right, that talking about active transportation, that we use, our transit network, to be able to support our bike infrastructure to be used for more than just recreational activities. So that being said, there's no other questions, so we'll move on.
Well,
Yes, Councilman.
just an FYI, because we're getting ready to do major rehaul of our wastewater infrastructure in the Heights area and in the older neighborhoods. And so I've talked to Ria to make Corpus Christi priority, to start there rather than to start in the streets that are inner grid. And as we start tearing up Corpus Christi to lay down the groundwork for all the infrastructure for our wastewater and water, on the rebuilding of it, I've got engineering working on the resurface to improve not only the sidewalks, because in many instances Corpus Christi has been hodgepodgely done, and you've got some sidewalks that are 3 feet wide and others that are 4 and 5 and 6 feet wide, and there are steps along the way, and so it's not level. So I've instructed engineering to come up with a design that works with our comprehensive plan, so that you have a reduced lane, but by the same token, you have areas for parking that are designated. You've got bus stop designated areas, and you have areas for possibly biking. Corpus Christi lends itself; it's wide enough to do maybe all of that. So towards the end of this year, we're going to start seeing the improvements starting to take hold. I'm debating whether, and I need to get together with Mr. McGee on this, doing the striping on it now so that people get accustomed to it, because I would think that that'd be the least expensive route. Do the striping first and see how people adjust to it before we actually start breaking up the ground and implementing the full scope of the work that's going to be done. I might input. I don't know if you guys would like something like that.
It's called tactical urbanism.
Yep. Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's
so
good.
I'm doing it without even knowing.
Right. I think that'd be good to kind of do like a pilot and find out, right, if it's used or what people think about it. It's a good idea.
A couple comments. Marta Martinez here. Number one, I'm happy that we were able to get the El Metro to start talking about some of these things that are happening. The north side of the city is very different than the south side of the city in the use of public transportation. I think they serve two different purposes, but we really haven't had a way of people in the north to really use active or El Metro. And so hopefully these changes are going to be beneficial with the micro transportation system, the circulator systems, both of which I championed, and then of course this hub on the north. Regarding how to do that, I think how to make this a little bit more, I guess how to implement it a little bit more quickly. I think going back and trying to fix previous problems becomes very arduous, very difficult, time consuming, and money consuming. Right. And so some areas do lend themselves, other areas do not lend themselves. And so I think the best thing is that when we're acquiring right of way for new developments, that we're acquiring the proper right of way so that the implementation starts with all new development based on our comprehensive plan. I think going back and trying to do some of this stuff is expensive. It is necessary in certain areas, but it is expensive, and it slows the whole process down. And so I really think we need to look at all new development. I think that's how we implement these things that we're trying to do more quickly. For instance, Santa Maria, that's an expensive project, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's only a limited amount of people that are currently using that, and we're having some damage to those areas from the semis that are trying to get into those industrial parks. And so to me, tactically, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But I understand the need for it, but it really does limit the amount of vehicular traffic there, especially 18-wheeler traffic. And so we have to be careful about that, because what we don't want to happen is people to get upset about this. We don't want people to say that this is a waste of our resources, and then all our plans that we have are going to go by the wayside because the public is going to have an outcry about it. So and we need to be very careful and tread very lightly as far as trying to go and fix certain areas that weren't planned this way, because it's costly, and number two, because we may end up in problems. Mr. Ronowski, to answer your question, I think it's a new development that's going to be the way that we more quickly are able to affect this change and the mindset of the public. Because if we don't change the mindset of the general public, all we're going to do is aggravate the general public. And so I would be just a little concerned about that. So, and then I guess what else were we talking about? We're talking about something else, but I forgot. Oh yeah, sidewalks. And resurfacing. So we did two things, right? So this, we passed with the help of Councilmember Martinez, we were able to pass 5 million last two budget cycles ago for both sidewalks and road resurfacing. That was eaten up by COVID. But this bond that we're selling now, it's going to, or the money that's coming in, forgive me, is going to have money built in for this specific thing. So we have $10 million that we're allocating both for street resurfacing as well as sidewalk allocation. And when we get the money, we do believe that a portion of that is going to go straight to sidewalks, much like it did when we actually put the 5 million in. Second, we're getting close to an infrastructure bill. And so we're already looking for funding mechanisms through that infrastructure bill. I think the federal government is kind of in a showdown right now, right? So 1.3 billion is where the Democrats are, and 750 billion is where the Democrats are. So hopefully somewhere in the $1 trillion range is where we're going to end up. And so there'll be money available for active transportation and also for public transportation. And so I think this committee needs to be looking at granting opportunities that might be available with that big bill. So it's a very large bill that hopefully within the next 2 or 3 months will get passed. And then everybody's going to be scrambling for this money. And so if we have plans already built, already shovel ready, we'll be at in an advantage situation. And so I would ask this committee if there are any areas that you think that need sidewalks, any areas that need resurfacing that are going to aid with this last mile or aid with transportation in general. Have those lined up, have those ready. Let us know at the city so we can design those areas so we're ready to have shovel-ready projects as soon as this infrastructure bill comes out. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you for that information. That is one of the roles of this committee, is to look for funding opportunities as well, and and present that to our MPO policy committee, and then disseminate that to the different entities. So thank you for that. We need to move on the agenda. Now sometimes I allow these conversations to go on just because I think it's good, it's meaningful, and there's not really another space to speak about all these issues. So, like during council meetings and other meetings, there's just so many other topics going on. So it's important to have these conversations. So thank you all for bringing that information. We'll go ahead and move on the agenda. Paola, Leslie with Maple City, Sasha, and David with Stantic. Thank you all very much. You all are more than welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but I know you might have other things to get to. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you for
No, thank you, Juan. Thank you, Juan.
Bye.
Bye.
I muted myself. The next thing on the agenda is a discussion on Laredo's bicycle-friendly community report card. Last time, I think, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 2018? We got an honorable mention from the Bike League on this report card. And I'm going to share the report card from that time. Yeah, it was spring 2018. And we got honorable mention. for some of the things that they look at, right? The 10 building blocks of a bicycle-friendly community, percentage of high-speed roads with bike facilities, total bicycle network mileage to total road network mileage, bicycle education in schools. Here in Laredo, we have none, so that's something that we need to improve. Share of transportation budget spent on bicycling, we only had 1%. Bike month and bike to work events, that's something we rated very good on. Active bicycle advocacy group, yes, we have had that and still have this. An active bicycle advisory committee that meets at least monthly, we still have that. Bicycle friendly laws and ordinances, we're rated very good for that. And the bike plan is current and is being implemented. So that was part of the comp plan, and now we have our active transportation plan. And then a bike program staff to population ratio. And right before I go into this, I don't know, Frank, if you want to add something. I was going to go over what we need to do to get to bronze, moving from honorable mention to actually being designated as a bronze city for bicycling.
No, the only thing I wanted to add is when you get to if you could just go up a little bit, Juan, when you get to the fatalities and the crashes, that was I don't think the city sent the right information. You can see that it looks like everybody here is just stuck in cars, but even though sometimes we are, that was not correctly, I think, sent to them. So I wouldn't, when the average bronze is 20 and we're at 357, that was incorrect information that the city sent. So, no, go ahead, go on.
Great. So I know me and Frank had been talking about, how do we become a bicycle friendly community with a bronze designation, which is the next step, and we're almost there. So I know some of the recommendations that the Bike League provided was to ensure that complete streets policy is followed for all projects. So ensuring compliance with the complete street policy is an important and often low cost way to add to your bicycle network. So I know it mentions here a 2016 policy. Frank, is that correct? Was there one in 2016? I know part of our plan recommends creating a complete streets policy.
I think it was in the comp plan, and it was recommended in the comp plan to do that.
Okay, so yeah, so that's definitely something we need to do, right? Is implement that complete streets policy, and it could be done at a city level, and maybe the MPO also, as a policy committee, can also try to do something right in this regard. I know other MPOs, what they've done is pretty much in their project criteria, they add these components requiring complete streets on certain projects. So that's one way that the MPOs try to advocate for complete streets. But of course, I think this is something that maybe can be done at a city level. Another thing that they suggested was to adopt a bike parking ordinance for new and existing buildings that specify the amount and location of secure, convenient bike parking available, and develop community-wide bicycle parking standards. They also mentioned that we had a limited bicycle network, and that based on the data that was provided, it's unlikely that it provides a low-stress experience suitable for people of all ages and abilities. So that's important to note. In the plan also, we're making sure that we're providing a bicycle network that has a low stress experience, meaning that people that, of all ages and all abilities feel comfortable riding on this network, whether, you're just starting out on a bike or you've, very experienced cyclist, an avid cyclist. So that's important to note, right? Another thing that they also suggested was bicycle safety education should be a routine part of education for students of all ages in schools surrounding neighborhoods. Should be particularly safe and convenient for biking and walking. So again, another recommendation or plan to partner up with schools, these bicycle advocacy programs. I know Bike Laredo has done a good job of that in the past. I think that's something that you all mentioned, continuing and doing more advocacy, but definitely partnering up with the school districts and seeing what we can do to make sure that they integrate this into the classroom, right? Bicycle safety and such. Another thing was expand bicycle education opportunities for adults, in addition to just students. There are some ideas that we've mentioned in the plan about like maybe teaming up with TxDOT or other entities to provide more of this, or with organizations like Bike Laredo and other bike groups in the community. And that's one I have a little bit less familiarity with, but maybe Frank, a little bit more about it. Host a league cycling instructor seminar.
So this is back in whenever we submitted this, 2018, about a year and a half ago, thanks to the city of Laredo, we were able to send 11 people to become league certified instructors. That includes the health department, the parks and rec department. It also included police officers from LISD, so we could implement a safe routes to school, as well as a few advocates as well. So we went from 0 LCIs to 11. And we're also looking at hopefully expanding that to the community. I think one of the groups that just joined us today which is great, is we have TAMU Rec Sports online with us now. They're really trying to they're getting behind what we're doing, and they're excited about it. We're talking about expanding the program there as well as other areas. But this is since this report card went out, it'd be nice to revisit it because we can check some of these things off the chart.
Right.
Some has been done.
Yeah, and it seems like some of this is low hanging fruit, definitely. So, like I know we had adopted a Vision Zero plan policy. This was something that they had recommended. Adopt a comprehensive road safety plan or a Vision Zero policy. I know there's been, I think the traffic department was taking on that, but I know there's changes in staffs, right, with the bike and ped coordinator. So, just thinking about how we keep moving this forward and what we can do, right, to make sure that we're implementing Vision Zero in our community. And if you all have any ideas, please do share those. And lastly was increase the amount of staff time spent on improving conditions for people who bike and walk. I think part of that is definitely, maybe like that bike ped coordinator position. Here at the MPO, we have this committee now, and we have staff dedicating time to this committee. And I know, like in the health department, Christina, you all work on some active transportation stuff too through your grants. So I think all that and making sure that we quantify that, like Frank said, when we're sending information to them for to be assessed, making sure that we're sending all the accurate data and we're thinking outside the box, right? Of like, okay, well, what else can qualify as staff time towards improving conditions for people who bike. So I don't know if anybody wants to add something. Like I said, these are the building blocks. There's things that are probably low hanging fruit, things that we can work on to make sure we get that bronze designation and work towards that. Here, our MPO staff may see what we can do as part of the committee, right, to push some of these things forward. And hopefully, other department heads from the city staff will also see what you all can do to push this forward. Are there any questions?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Frank.
Oh, I was just gonna, I when it comes to, so Vision Zero, we did adopt since this review was done. Complete Streets, we talked a little bit about it at the last month's meeting as well, what it is. It's in the comp plan. I do agree with Dr. Martinez on the idea that, well, I agree and disagree. I agree that we got to be really careful about how we implement walking and biking in existing right of way, because we all know that there's places where it could work, and then there's places it shouldn't work. And I mean, I know that we're going to rely on people like Mr. McGee, and certainly planning department and MPO on doing the studies that give us that information, because you just shouldn't be putting them down where you feel like you should be putting them down. There's good places and there's bad places. But so in that respect, I agree with Dr. Martinez on that. When it comes to adopting complete streets, I think it's in the comp plan. So really, all new developments should be somewhat following it. And so I think, whether if they're asking us to adopt a policy, that's something I guess you all should look into what that means. But when it comes to Vision Zero, we were the third city in Texas to adopt it, which was pretty progressive when we did. It was amazing. Right now, we are probably, I think, the 15th. So a lot of other cities are joining forces, and I think I told you all a few meetings ago, since I serve on the Text.Bike Ped committee up in Austin, one of their big pushes for Texas cities is to adopt and implement Vision Zero. I know Mr. McGee has his hands full right now. We've talked about this a little on and off over the past year. But it would be great if we can help or ask, we're asking how we can help kind of bring it back to the table because, you know, the Vision Zero policy is really, it's for everybody. It's about reducing traffic fatalities, whether you're in a car, on a bike, or walking. So I don't know who'd be against reducing death in our city to make our city safer. I mean, sometimes it means slowing down. Sometimes it does mean looking at speed limits. And I know people don't like to be slowed down. We always want to get to our next destination as quickly as we can. But, you know, the policy has been set up internationally and it has been working. So I guess we're asking here how we can help move it along. I guess that would be my question because we already adopted it. It exists. So.
Great. Thank you. And there's and you know, you all have any ideas or thoughts after, you can email us those, or we're always available to have a conversation. So whatever we can do also as an MPO to support this, just let us know. We'll go ahead and move on. I think Regina was asking if we'll be hearing a status of Vision Zero. I think that's something that maybe we can bring up at the next meeting. I know maybe it was kind of on hold, Mr. McGee. Is that something you'd want to provide at the next meeting? I can put that on the agenda, or
At the very least, we can give you a status update of what other cities are doing. Ironically, I've just been talking to Chief. I think I said him on the call, so that we need to kick this off again. It's been stagnant because of several things, not least of which was the COVID situation. But I think it's time that we kick it off. We need to come up with a plan for the city so that everybody has a goal. It's just one thing to say it's a Vision Zero city, but it's another to, you know, to put our money and our efforts behind it. Sometimes those two things aren't being looked at, I guess. So we can certainly give a status of the other cities and then a plan of what we're going to want to do. You okay with that, Claudio?
Yes, thank you, Danny. Yes, absolutely. And also additional information can be provided on the different efforts PD has been moving along the way with regards to traffic safety. We had an issue a couple years, 3 years ago with fatality accidents on our roadways. So we attacked it in we had a different approach, worked also with TxDOT and the grants and rewrote some of the language to be able to do extra enforcement. Also with here, I see some council members with us. I see Councilmember Martinez as well. And I'll just throw this out there. There's different approaches that council members to take on their own districts as well. They ask us for different type of enforcement, but we have the plan that is laid out with TxDOT with traffic enforcement, and we stress that to the council members to let them know why and how we do enforcement in the different districts around the city. So we can also share that with the team.
And Chief knows I tell everybody to get a ticket. That's my enforcement. I don't mess around.
Absolutely. And like I said, we have a strategy, we have a written down plan. So it's not like we change it up often. We lay it out. That's how we're able to bring in grant funding from the TxDOT to be able to do the extra enforcement of the different hotspots, the identified hotspots with regards to traffic accidents. So we work closely with traffic safety to address issues with lighting as well to help us out. So all that can be part of the discussion.
great. Yeah, so if y'all are okay with that, we'll put that on the next agenda a month from now. So, all right.
And Juan, would it be possible to also look at complete the streets policy at the same time to see kind of how they can all complement each other?
Yeah, I mean, we can look at that. I know we try to keep the meetings to an hour, and sometimes, you know, since we do get a lot of discussion, I worry about putting too much on the agenda and then not being able to cover certain topics. But I'm sure like Vision Zero will write a lot. But what I've been doing, like you've seen on the agenda, I put items for future discussion. We have it on top of our mind. But but I can see how we can integrate it. We can have a conversation after and see how we can, put it on the agenda. But I think may do a status report for Vision Zero, just like on what other cities are doing and what we've been doing here, and then seeing how we can tie in complete streets. Yeah, I do just worry sometimes that we'll be short on time.
Yeah, of course. And if not, we can roll it over or just know what the update is on it.
Okay.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you all. Well, the next item, just a quick overview. A member had just asked to have an overview of the plan's recommended off-street network along the river and the creeks. So I was just showing the map here that of the creeks, right, and the watersheds here in Laredo. And what we're proposing was, that we look at bike infrastructure along these, which I know we've been doing for some time now, like alongside at the creek, and John Porter and his team at Environmental Services are doing like along Rio Vega. So something we want to do is just make sure that these green spaces also have access, right? That the people in the neighborhoods have access to these green spaces. So we're thinking of creating a network based on using the river, as a spine, and then these creeks as branches. So that way you can create this off-street bicycle network that then interacts or connects with an on-street network, as is shown in our plan. So that was basically the idea behind this. I don't know if there's any questions. We're getting close to an hour, so we want to be respectful of everybody's time, but I did want to bring this up. And if you all have any questions or anything about this, but pretty much the river and the creeks was what we were looking at for our off-street network, just because it's safer, it's very nice, it's, you get to go out and experience nature. And I know that, there's also a lot of possibility to get funding, if we look at those things, because, there's funding to improve trails, walking trails, bike trails. I know John Porter and their team, have been doing a good job of this, and as well as the rest of the city. I don't know if you all have any questions or comments. And just as another update on the active transportation plan, I know Los Presidentes, the road that they're expanding out in by Cuatro Vientos, just east of Cuatro Vientos, I think it broke ground. They're starting some work out there, if I'm not mistaken. In the original plan, there's a bike lane proposed there. And I don't know if Mr. McGee or someone else on the call might know if that bike lane's still going in on Los Presidentes.
You're talking about the new one that goes from Cuatro Vientos to the east?
Yes.
Yeah, it is supposed to incorporate, it's supposed to be done according to the Viva Laredo plan.
Okay.
So it will incorporate bike lanes in there.
Great. Yeah, that's what I had understood at first. I hadn't received an update on that, so I was curious.
I haven't seen the latest cross section, but
Yeah.
when we talked to Mr. Garza,
Yeah, no,
it was supposed to.
I saw that at the RMA meeting that he was talking about it, and I was trying to see the cross section or the map he was sharing, but I wasn't able to see if the bike lane was there. But yeah, so that's actually another bike lane that was in our active transportation plan, or that is in our active transportation plan. So once that gets built, that will be yet, more part of the network that's being constructed. So we look forward to that. And lastly, you all are aware of the budget survey that the city has put out. I just wanted to promote it here again. I know they're seeking input. There's some questions on there about how you would like your tax dollars, right, to be allocated. And there's definitely, I'll show you the link. So pretty much once you go to the city website, you just scroll down and you'll find this Laredo Voices right here, survey. You can either do that in English or in Spanish. And there are questions on there just about, if you would like to fund active transportation or like sidewalk improvements, bike lanes. So it's important that as a committee, we fill that out. And thank you, Regina, for sharing the direct link to that. She just shared it on the chat box. So I know I filled it out. So if you haven't had a chance to fill it out yet, please go ahead and do so. That's going to be, very beneficial to the city that they have this information to see what their citizens want. Okay.
And I suggest you share it with family and friends, because the more information, the better on these type of surveys. Absolutely.
That's right. Thank you, Chief. So, future agenda items and meeting, something we still want to talk about is in the future, the discussion on the prioritization of the bicycle projects on the 10-year network. Some projects are moving along, but looking forward, we want to make sure we prioritize the future projects. And then, as Regina mentioned around the complete streets, I'll go ahead and I can add that as well. It's a future agenda item. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, June 30th at noon. So I hope to see you all here next month. I'll be sending out the meeting invite with the link as I always do. So we look forward to having you here. And with that being said, we'll go into the open forum and adjournment. Does anyone want to add anything? And I kind of ran through the announcements, but I was going to mention them. But yes, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mandiva, this is Councilmember Vanessa Perez.
Oh, hello. Yes, I was. Yeah, I had seen you
Hi.
earlier, and I was going to recognize you, and then I didn't see your name anymore. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I jumped off because I was
Oh.
worried there may have been a quorum or something,
No.
and I'm driving, so
Okay.
I haven't. I'm not used to doing these meetings from the car, but
No, we're
I
fine.
did
We're
want to
fine.
add something.
Yes, please.
So I don't know if the committee's aware, but or if Metro touched on it, but we're actually expanding bus service to Mines Road. We're expanding it from Killam all the way to Green Ranch subdivision, and we're gonna have a ribbon cutting coming up here on the 1st, I believe, the 1st or the 2nd, and the route's gonna begin on the 7th. So that's exciting. It's the first time they've had the bus come out to Green Ranch, and it's gonna go to the industrial park. It's gonna come to La Bota, and it's gonna incorporate into the system. I don't know if you all talked about that yet.
We did talk about it, council member.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Just
Well,
yeah.
so I was talking to Teclo, and he was kind of telling me that it would be great for us to kind of plan for some kind of fast track route where we can connect potential employees that live in the south all the way up to the max, to bring them over to work. And so I don't know if there's any plans for some kind of fast track, either metro service or maybe some kind of I don't know, monorail type thing where we could build maybe along the river from the south to bring people, over here to the industrial areas to work. So if we haven't talked about that, maybe we can put that on our radar, because it is we were modifying one of our current routes, so that means that the wait times are going to be a little bit longer, but we were able to expand the service. But that's not really going to address the needs that we have for employment in the industrial areas that are still further up. So I'd like to tackle that if we can.
Right. And yeah, so a reminder, I mean, that's something that MPOs could do, maybe like provide do a study or something. So that's something that you'd be interested in. Maybe as a committee, this can be recommended to the policy committee, and then the policy committee looking at that to add this in our next year's unified work program to make sure that we add such a study, because I think that's important to look at, right? Because data does show that there's a lot of people living in South Laredo but are working like in the Northwest corridor. So it's important to kind
Exactly.
of do an analysis of that, of just how much of that is happening, and then making sure that we study it and see what are the needs. So I mean, we've been looking at maybe a South Laredo transportation study. Maybe we can incorporate that in there somehow, but or have it a separate study. But I mean, that's something we can look at. But of course, I'm sure there's other projects also that Metro I'd be considering. But yeah, definitely on the MPO side, I think that's something where we could help, right? If we did some type of study or a plan.
Yeah, anything we can do to kind of avoid the need for getting anything we can do that would involve the transportation aspect of it, but not necessarily having to be on FM 1472, especially with the congestion. I mean, if there was some kind of rail system or something like that, I think since we don't have anything like that in Laredo, and I think I think even the governor has expressed that that's where we're kind of headed in the future anyways. And even though like politics aside, and I think that's something we can all agree on that we need to kind of look forward to. So it's good to see that that's an idea that I think we can all jump on, is, maybe not being so much on the road. And if we can kind of get something like a rail system going, that would probably be a good thing for Laredo.
Sorry, I was
Final
muted.
comment.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Several years
But
ago,
thank
there
you
had
for
been a
the meeting.
study, feasibility study for a bus rapid transit. I think at that time they said it wasn't feasible, but they were looking at an option like along I-35. But maybe we can revisit that and see, it would be a dedicated lane for bus rapid transit, maybe those elongated buses, and it's less expensive than rail, right? But those are
Mm-hmm.
things we could study. So I definitely encourage, that.
Mr. Mendive, I'm cutting a little bit because Monica Garcia with Transit
Go ahead.
Department. There's also a lot of monies and a lot of grant monies, once the feasibility study is done for rail. There's also a lot of money that, FTA themselves give for the beginning and actually running the rail system in itself. So that's just, there's a lot of money out there for that once you have multi-mode type of transportation.
That's
in
good to
our
know.
country.
And I expect more of that coming out with the new administration, right? That they're looking at different modes of transport. So I expect a lot more monies to be available, hopefully. But yeah, that's good to note, and it's good. That's why it's important to talk right to our transit partners to see, where the money's at, right? Maybe I know for a long time they were advocating for BRT, but if there's more money for rail, then why not, go that route like
Yeah.
light rail or
I
something.
mean, they have, once you start combating a lot of putting everything in together, having multi-mode type of systems, the FTA usually get, they start, you hit more of a pot of money versus to just having your transit. So that's just
Well,
food for thought.
well, that's awesome, and I would love to maybe get some kind of wish list plan and see if we could get some money for it if we can. And I'd love to be part of that conversation. But thanks again for the meeting. It's always informative, and so that's the end of my comments.
I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you all joined. And I don't know what the smallest city with light rail is. That'll be an interesting fact, but maybe it could be Laredo. All right. So thank you all for joining the meeting. There's no other questions or comments. Uh, I
Can I,
appreciate your time.
can I just end on one note?
Yeah, please.
We would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge, because of our last meeting, it was at the end of April. This is National Bike Month. Even though we're coming toward the end of it, I really want to thank Regina and Juan and Fernando and Laredo Cycling for putting together basically last year we had one event during National Bike Month in the middle of the pandemic. It was a Ride of Silence. Uh, and previous years we've had up to 40 events. We would probably start scheduling them 2 months in advance. But just so everyone knows, because we didn't know, thank goodness things are getting better. We weren't really planning anything, but we literally started putting a calendar together Wednesday before May 1st, which we had 2 days to put together a calendar. And thanks to everyone's efforts, we were able to get one out. We had 21 events, which isn't bad for 2 days, by working with the local bike shops, the group here, and Tammy, you joined us as well. And so even though we're heading toward the end of May, I think there's another 3 or 4 events still happening between now and Sunday. So just want to say happy National Bike Month, everybody.
Yes, happy National Bike Month. Thank you, Frank, for that reminder. And yes, there's great events. I heard that the Ride of Silence had a good attendance. So even though there was fears of rain, and it cleared up that day. But yeah, Frank was an instrumental part of putting that calendar together as well. So we appreciate your help. And we had a proclamation that was done virtually. But next year we'll do one in person, and we'll plan with a lot more time, and we'll see what events we can put on that calendar for next year. Again, thank you, everyone, for your time. Hope to see you all at the next meeting on June the 30th. Appreciate your time. You all have a good rest of your day. Bye bye.
Thank you.